I am 26-year-old Tessa finally returning home after 2 brutal years in prison for an unjust conviction. I stood before the familiar porch in Centennial, Colorado, ready to reclaim the life my younger sister stole with her fabricated tears. Reaching for the brass doorknob, I froze completely when I realized the heavy wooden door was left slightly ajar. A hushed but highly calculating voice drifted through the narrow crack, revealing my stepmother speaking privately on the phone with an unfamiliar man. I stood paralyzed in the concealing darkness while listening to a conversation that shattered everything I thought I knew about my household. My stepmother was actively discussing a ruthless plot to seize our family property while exposing a sickening secret kept hidden for 18 years. I held my breath tightly as her sharp words pierced the quiet night air with absolute malice. He has no idea his precious daughter is actually yours, so once he signs those transfer papers next week, this house is ours, and he will be out on the street. The younger sister I had sacrificed my future to protect did not even share a single drop of my father's blood. A violent surge of betrayal washed over me, tempting me to kick the door open to confront her right then. Instead of acting on that impulsive rage, I silently took a step backward into the cold night. I firmly decided to suppress my emotions because keeping this newfound knowledge hidden would grant me the ultimate tactical advantage. Welcome to my story, so please subscribe to the channel to follow along as I systematically tear off the masks of these traitors to reclaim exactly what belongs to me. I grabbed my bag, turned my back, and walked quickly away from the porch, heading straight for the main road to find an available taxi. Instead of storming inside the property to cause an immediate explosive scene, I made the calculated decision to rent a cheap, cramped motel room on the desolate outskirts of Centennial. This isolated environment provided the absolute safety and private space strictly required to calm my racing mind while carefully drafting a concrete retaliation strategy without alerting the traitors living comfortably inside my former home. The neon lights flickering outside my dirty window cast long shadows across the stained carpet as I dropped my heavy belongings onto the single wooden chair. I firmly refused to let blind fury dictate my actions when calculated precision was desperately needed. Sitting alone inside that sparsely furnished room, I vividly recalled the chaotic night of the tragic car accident 2 years ago. My sister Quinn had recklessly crashed her vehicle into a public structure while heavily intoxicated, yet she entirely avoided the severe legal consequences. My stepmother Marilyn had aggressively utilized her manipulative fake tears to completely control the narrative of the incident, painting the true culprit as a fragile victim deserving profound sympathy. Meanwhile, my dad Anthony had physically dropped to his knees on the living room floor to beg me to take the blame in order to protect the supposedly bright future of his youngest child. He had traded my absolute freedom for her temporary comfort without hesitating for even a single moment. As I sat perfectly still on the edge of the stiff mattress, I began piecing together those fragmented memories with a terrifying newfound clarity. A massive suspicion slowly formed in my mind, suggesting the incident that rainy night was never merely about shifting the blame onto a convenient scapegoat to save a careless teenager. Sending me away to a state penitentiary for 2 grueling years likely provided Marilyn with the ultimate benefit of permanently eliminating the sole legitimate heir from the immediate picture. With my physical absence and permanently ruined reputation, she possessed the perfect uninterrupted opportunity to aggressively manipulate Dad into surrendering complete control over the entire family estate. She deliberately capitalized on his blind parental guilt to permanently clear her path. I whispered to the empty room, finally comprehending the sheer depth of their meticulously orchestrated betrayal. I clearly understood the very first move I needed to execute was certainly not rushing back into that house to confront them with emotional but entirely empty accusations. I had to thoroughly investigate exactly how far Marilyn had already progressed with her fraudulent legal documents before launching any formal counterattack against her hidden schemes. Confronting her without solid, verifiable proof would only allow her to easily twist the narrative once again to make me look like a deranged ex-convict seeking baseless revenge. If she plans to officially transfer the property, there must be a definitive legal paper trail confirming her ongoing deceit. I muttered aloud while strategically organizing my immediate tactical priorities, utilizing a small stash of emergency cash I had secretly hidden away in a safe location long before my unjust incarceration. I immediately walked to a 24-hour convenience store located just down the dark street. I purchased a cheap, untraceable prepaid mobile phone to strictly secure my sensitive communications moving forward. I desperately needed this clean digital device to securely reach out to the single reliable individual I could still completely trust to help me properly navigate the complex legal labyrinth awaiting me. Establishing immediate contact with a knowledgeable ally was the mandatory foundation for permanently destroying the false reality my stepmother had successfully constructed during my prolonged absence. On Monday morning, I pushed open the heavy glass door of a quiet, private law office located securely within the bustling downtown district. I finally reunited with my lawyer Wesley sitting behind a massive oak desk covered in neatly organized legal files. He remained the only old friend willing to genuinely listen, while showing profound sympathy upon learning how my own family systematically framed me for a crime I never committed. Pushing aside those initial personal emotions, Wesley immediately initiated our formal counterattack by accessing the public property records database specific to Centennial County. His fingers flew rapidly across the mechanical keyboard as he meticulously scanned through various recent legal filings directly related to our primary residential address. Within mere minutes of navigating the online county archives, he discovered a highly suspicious power of attorney document recently established under the legal name of my dad. The sudden appearance of this sweeping legal authorization confirmed the immediate danger hovering over the entire family estate. Tessa. This specific document grants Marilyn complete authority over all the financial assets, meaning, if she decides to sell the house tomorrow, your dad does not even need to be physically present, Wesley stated firmly while tapping his index finger against the glowing computer monitor. The severe implications of that single digital file solidified the ruthless nature of the plot I was desperately trying to stop before total financial ruin occurred. While carefully reviewing some older civil litigation records attached to the property history, Wesley uncovered faint traces of unusual recurring payments. These questionable financial transfers were consistently directed toward an unknown individual, identified only as Sterling in the public registry. Wesley quickly clarified we would absolutely need a formal court subpoena to deeply penetrate those shielded bank accounts for concrete financial evidence linking them together. We could not legally request those highly protected banking documents without establishing a solid foundation of undeniable fraud, first to satisfy a presiding judge, since every legal system strictly required hard physical evidence before granting access to private financial institutions. I will pretend to obediently return home because I urgently need to see with my own eyes exactly where she actively hides those original legal contracts. I replied with an icy tone, devoid of any lingering familial warmth. The prospect of facing the people who destroyed my youth disgusted me, but it remained the absolutely only viable option to successfully gather undeniable proof. Wesley completely agreed with my risky infiltration plan, while carefully outlining our necessary legal strategy, moving forward toward a formal criminal accusation. He professionally suggested that if Quinn truly possessed no biological connection to my dad, acquiring a direct DNA sample would serve as our absolute strongest legal weapon. Obtaining that undeniable biological proof would permanently dismantle the intricate web of lies Marilyn had constructed over the past 2 decades. We spent the next hour meticulously reviewing the specific boundaries of the law regarding covert evidence collection within a private residence. I memorized every legal parameter Wesley provided to ensure my upcoming actions inside that house would remain entirely admissible in a future courtroom. Stepping back into the deceptive environment that stole my freedom required immense psychological preparation alongside flawless physical execution to avoid catastrophic detection. I assured Wesley I would gather the necessary physical evidence without raising even the slightest suspicion from the woman orchestrating this massive theft. Our meeting concluded with a clear mutual understanding regarding the dangerous path I was about to walk alone to secure my ultimate vengeance. He then securely printed out the suspicious property records prior to handing them directly to me across the desk, finalizing the preliminary phase of our joint investigation. Late Thursday afternoon, I officially reached out to press the doorbell of the exact same residence I was forcibly thrown out of 2 years ago. Stepping over the threshold felt like entering a hostile territory heavily disguised as a loving domestic sanctuary. The heavy wooden door swung open to reveal Marilyn and Quinn immediately performing a pathetic theatrical display of overwhelming pity through entirely fake physical embraces. Meanwhile, Dad remained completely frozen in the background, with his head bowed deeply, actively avoiding my direct gaze, because his overwhelming guilt prevented him from looking his eldest daughter in the eyes. He nervously shuffled his feet against the expensive hardwood floor, while muttering a barely audible greeting that sounded more like a shameful apology to a complete stranger. "It is so incredibly good you are finally back, so our family can be properly reunited because you suffered way too much." Quinn cried out dramatically, forcing several crocodile tears to fall, while her manicured fingers tightly gripped a brand new luxury designer handbag. Her blatant display of recently acquired wealth sickened me instantly, yet I refused to let my facial expression betray my internal fury. I executed my carefully rehearsed role of a completely defeated convict flawlessly by lowering my gaze and expressing profound gratitude toward them for allowing my return. I expertly buried the intense disgust boiling violently inside my chest beneath a carefully crafted mask of total submission to ensure they suspected absolutely nothing about my true intentions. "I am perfectly fine since I merely want to be back home where I belong, so I can start my life over without causing any more trouble," I replied with a deliberately soft tone dripping with fabricated obedience. Hearing those specific submissive words seemed to completely relax their remaining defensive postures, falsely reassuring them that prison had successfully broken my rebellious spirit. Carefully observing Quinn casually sporting ridiculously expensive fashion accessories, alongside Marilyn flaunting an aggressively lavish attitude, provided undeniable visual confirmation regarding their ongoing financial theft. Seeing such blatant displays of unearned wealth firmly convinced me that the remaining balances within the joint bank accounts belonging to Dad were being ruthlessly drained without a single ounce of mercy. Throughout the excruciatingly long meal, Marilyn repeatedly boasted about her upcoming extravagant vacation plans, while casually pouring herself multiple glasses of incredibly expensive imported wine. Every new piece of premium furniture decorating the living room served as a silent testament to exactly how comfortably they lived, while I merely survived inside a bleak concrete cell. I patiently waited for the chaotic moment when everyone began clearing the dining table after our incredibly tense welcoming dinner, to seamlessly slip away unnoticed into the upstairs hallway. I quietly sneaked directly into the private bathroom, exclusively used by Quinn, to meticulously search for the necessary biological material required for our upcoming legal strike. I carefully collected several fallen hair strands tangled within her expensive hairbrush before securely sealing them inside a small plastic zip bag I had brought specifically for this crucial task. After securing the vital biological evidence safely within my deep pocket, I swiftly moved toward the decorative cabinet situated right next to the spacious kitchen area. This specific location was the exact spot where Marilyn frequently stood to conduct her highly secretive phone conversations away from the prying ears of her oblivious husband. I swiftly attached a tiny digital recording device, completely out of sight beneath the bottom wooden shelf of the cabinet to perfectly capture her treacherous voice. Pressing the adhesive backing firmly against the hidden wood surface ensured the miniature microphone would cleanly record every single malicious whisper she dared to utter inside those supposedly safe walls. I double-checked the hidden placement of the surveillance equipment before casually rejoining the family in the living room, as if absolutely nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. At exactly 2 o'clock on Sunday morning, the steady and incredibly heavy sound of Dad's snoring echoed constantly from the master bedroom, located at the far end of the dark residential hallway. I had already prepared myself by carefully wearing a pair of thin medical gloves, to avoid leaving fingerprints before securely gripping a small tactical flashlight while taking completely weightless steps into his pitch-black study room. The absolute silence enveloping the entire household provided the perfect opportunity to execute the most dangerous phase of my investigative infiltration without alerting the sleeping traders resting comfortably nearby. I swiftly located the heavy metal safe cleverly hidden behind a large decorative landscape painting hanging conspicuously on the wooden wall, directly behind the main mahogany desk situated in the center. My initial instinct naturally urged me to input the familiar birth date of her precious daughter, but I quickly realized a pragmatic middle-aged woman seeking absolute financial control operated quite differently. She is way too arrogant to utilize a completely random security password for something this critically important. I muttered quietly under my breath, while entirely abandoning the idea of using Quinn as the numerical key. Relying entirely upon my deep understanding regarding the calculating psychology of highly manipulative women, I confidently entered the specific calendar date marking the wedding anniversary belonging to Marilyn and Dad. A highly satisfying mechanical click immediately resonated through the terrifyingly quiet room as the heavy steel door of the hidden wall safe swung open completely to reveal its closely guarded financial secrets. Reaching cautiously inside the dark metal cavity with my gloved hands, I immediately discovered a newly drafted property transfer contract maliciously disguised under the completely false pretense of a standard home refinancing agreement. This deceptive legal document was meticulously prepared beforehand, requiring only a single signature from my oblivious father to legally authorize the complete surrender of his most valuable residential asset to an external holding entity. Lying directly beneath that treacherous real estate contract was an incredibly thick stack of original monthly bank statements clearly documenting numerous unauthorized financial transfers secretly funneled straight into the private accounts controlled by Sterling. So, this is exactly how she plans to brutally throw him out on the unforgiving street. I thought silently while shining my narrow flashlight beam directly onto the shady beneficiary company name printed clearly on the legal paper. I quickly pulled out my new prepaid mobile phone to systematically capture extremely high-resolution digital photographs of every single damning page to ensure Wesley received undeniable visual proof of their massive corporate fraud. I made absolutely certain that every numerical digit denoting the stolen monetary funds was perfectly legible on my glowing digital screen before methodically moving on to the next piece of highly incriminating paper evidence. Maintaining an incredibly high level of meticulous precision throughout the entire evidence collection process, I carefully arranged every single sensitive document back into its exact original position to prevent Marilyn from noticing any microscopic physical disturbances later. After thoroughly verifying the absolute visual perfection of the fully restored crime scene, I gently pushed the heavy steel door shut until the internal locking mechanism engaged securely without leaving behind even a single physical trace of my nocturnal intrusion. I smoothly repositioned the large decorative painting over the concealed wall vault to completely hide the metallic surface from anyone casually walking into the home office during normal daylight operating hours. Stealing silently back through the dark residential corridors toward my designated guest bedroom, I felt a powerful surge of triumphant satisfaction, knowing I now finally possessed the exact, undeniable legal ammunition required to permanently destroy their fake domestic reality. On Wednesday afternoon, a securely sealed envelope delivered directly from the private medical laboratory rested perfectly aligned on the polished surface of the wooden desk belonging to Wesley. He carefully tore open the sterile packaging to extract the official DNA testing results, formally confirming that Quinn possessed absolutely zero biological relationship with my oblivious dad. This undeniable scientific document finally provided us with the very first piece of ironclad physical evidence strictly required to permanently destroy the extensive web of malicious lies continuously constructed by my stepmother over the past 2 decades. The laboratory report definitively proved that the spoiled teenager demanding constant luxury was nothing more than the illicit product of a hidden affair designed to actively deceive my naive father. I calmly reached into my jacket pocket to extract the small digital recording device I had successfully retrieved from the decorative cabinet before placing it firmly onto the smooth glass table located right between us. We sat together in absolute silence, while listening closely to the captured audio file revealing Marilyn eagerly finalizing an upcoming appointment with her private attorney to aggressively force the signing of those fraudulent papers this upcoming weekend. She explicitly stated the old fool completely trusts the fake refinancing contract, so once everything is legally finalized this Saturday, you and I will immediately relocate to Florida to enjoy our newly acquired wealth. The treacherous voice belonging to Marilyn echoed clearly through the small digital speaker. Hearing her casually discuss the total financial destruction of my dad, while happily planning a luxurious getaway with her secret accomplice, fueled my burning desire to see her securely locked inside a concrete prison cell. The third devastating truth rapidly unfolded when Wesley presented the comprehensive background check he had independently conducted regarding the mysterious individual continuously receiving the stolen family funds. He successfully discovered through extensive public registry records that Sterling was definitely not a legitimate financial advisor operating a certified investment firm, but rather a long-term romantic lover deeply involved with Marilyn long before she ever married into my family. The deceitful pair had effectively remained entirely hidden in the dark shadows for nearly 20 years, while silently leeching massive amounts of accumulated wealth directly from our joint household savings accounts without triggering any banking alarms. This specific situation represents a highly calculated case of organized property fraud, aiming to steal a valuable residential estate, so the local police are eagerly waiting for our comprehensive files to prepare the official arrest warrants. Wesley stated firmly while meticulously gathering the scattered evidentiary documents into a single organized legal folder. Our collected materials now overwhelmingly satisfied the strict judicial burden of proof desperately necessary to formally initiate a devastating criminal prosecution against both greedy conspirators manipulating my vulnerable household. We immediately proceeded to solidify our ultimate tactical action plan, specifically designed to completely trap the arrogant criminals inside their own deceptive legal snare, without offering them any possible avenue of legal escape. I would personally intervene at the exact critical moment to physically stop my dad from placing his binding signature onto the deceptive property transfer documents right before the ink could actually touch the fraudulent paper. Meanwhile, Wesley would coordinate closely with the designated law enforcement units, waiting discreetly outside the residential property to smoothly execute the formal arrests by catching the guilty perpetrators directly in the criminal act at the actual crime scene. Securing this flawless timing was absolutely crucial to ensure the aggressive stepmother faced the maximum legal penalty for actively attempting to unlawfully seize a valuable estate that never truly belonged to her manipulative hands. Exactly at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, the private lawyer hired by Marilyn flattened the deceptive property transfer documents onto the pristine glass table situated directly in the center of our spacious living room. Dad held a heavy gold-plated pen securely within his right hand, while preparing to place his binding signature onto the fraudulent paperwork, under the sweet urging of my treacherous stepmother. Marilyn stood right beside him, wearing a victorious smile while gently massaging his tense shoulders to completely distract his vulnerable mind from reading the fine print. "Sign it, honey, because this specific financial loan will greatly help us cover the expensive college tuition for Quinn, along with finally fixing our damaged residential roof," Marilyn whispered softly while lying effortlessly without blinking even a single time. Before the metallic tip of his expensive pen could actually touch the legal document, I confidently marched straight out from the dark hallway to forcefully snatch the writing instrument right out from his trembling fingers. Without wasting a single second on useless emotional greetings, I violently slammed the thick stack containing the official DNA test results, alongside the crystal-clear photographs of the hidden bank statements directly onto the glass surface. Marilyn instantly turned incredibly pale while desperately stuttering out various pathetic denials to quickly cover up her massive deception regarding the stolen financial funds. Quinn immediately panicked upon seeing her luxurious lifestyle suddenly threatened by screaming a barrage of vicious insults aimed entirely at my sudden, unwanted intrusion. I completely ignored their chaotic theatrical performance by coldly pressing the play button on my digital device to broadcast the damning audio recording detailing their malicious plot to steal the family house. The treacherous voice of my stepmother eagerly discussing her secret relocation plans to Florida with her hidden lover echoed loudly throughout the previously quiet living room to entirely shatter the fake domestic illusion. Dad visibly crumbled under the overwhelming psychological weight of the horrifying revelations before collapsing heavily back into his leather armchair in a state of absolute silent shock. His entire world completely shattered within mere seconds as he stared blankly at the undeniable combination of the biological DNA report paired with the incriminating audio tape exposing the fraudulent transfer contract. The painful realization that he had blindly trusted a manipulative monster while unjustly sending his only biological daughter to a state penitentiary completely drained the remaining color from his aging face. The police officers alongside the Specialized Financial Investigation Task Force have completely surrounded the exterior perimeter of this residential property, meaning you people have absolutely no way out of this current situation," Wesley declared loudly while suddenly pushing the front door wide open to boldly enter the tense room. My trusted lawyer stood tall at the main entrance while tightly clutching the matching duplicate legal folder containing every single piece of evidence we had meticulously gathered over the past few grueling days. Marilyn attempted to scramble toward the back exit to escape her inevitable criminal fate, but found her physical escape route firmly blocked by the overwhelming reality of her failed master plan. Merely a few tense minutes following the authoritative announcement made by Wesley, several uniformed police officers forcefully rushed inside the living room to execute the official arrest warrants against the greedy conspirators. The harsh, metallic clicking sound of heavy police handcuffs locking securely around the trembling wrists of my stepmother provided the ultimate musical symphony to signify the spectacular success of my calculated vengeance. I stood perfectly still while watching the arrogant woman being physically dragged out of the house she desperately tried to steal, knowing true justice had finally arrived to cleanse this deeply poisoned household. 6 months later, the chillingly formal corridors belonging to the Centennial County Courthouse completely ended our brutally exhausting legal warfare to officially conclude this tragic familial chapter. The presiding judge sternly delivered the final crushing verdict before a packed gallery, aggressively sentencing Marilyn alongside Sterling to serve exceptionally lengthy federal prison terms for committing organized financial fraud while actively perpetuating malicious perjury within a formal courtroom setting. Once her massive tuition accounts became completely frozen through strict legal injunctions, effectively eliminating every single luxurious allowance previously stolen from our family estate, Quinn was immediately forced to permanently leave her incredibly expensive university. The previously spoiled teenager desperately struggled to survive by working exhausting minimum wage jobs simply to afford basic living necessities without possessing any further access to unearned wealth. Dad successfully retained his full legal ownership over the spacious residential property due to our timely intervention. Yet he spent the vast majority of his remaining days living completely alone while drowning in an ocean of absolute regret. The devastating reality of his foolish blindness had completely destroyed his once vibrant spirit, leaving him to suffer through profound physical deterioration, along with overwhelming daily isolation inside the extremely quiet house he almost lost to greedy predators. Tessa, please come back home because I fully realize my massive mistakes now. So please forgive me for forcing you into prison while granting me one final chance to properly make amends. Dad cried uncontrollably while begging desperately on the cold stone steps located right outside the imposing courthouse doors. Your pathetic cowardice during that critical year was a deliberate personal choice, meaning my 2 stolen years of youth cannot ever be adequately redeemed through a simple verbal apology. I replied with absolute, unwavering finality. I deliberately turned my back to firmly grab my heavy leather suitcase, walking confidently away toward my newly reclaimed freedom to permanently sever all remaining familial ties without feeling even a single ounce of lingering regret regarding my harsh but entirely necessary decision. On behalf of our entire production channel, we proudly present this powerful story strictly intended for educational purposes regarding essential personal boundaries. This compelling narrative effectively demonstrates exactly how innocent victims should meticulously handle severe familial crises utilizing pure logic alongside strict legal procedures. Evaluating this highly complex situation objectively reveals exactly how the resilient female protagonist decisively protected her own mental well-being by permanently severing all toxic family ties. The malicious antagonists rightfully suffered the inevitable devastating legal consequences, resulting directly from their own incredibly greedy choices to unlawfully manipulate a completely innocent young woman. Stepping away from the intense courtroom drama provides several profoundly crucial life lessons regarding personal dignity. Misplaced forgiveness ultimately serves as the sharpest weapon, allowing evil individuals to continuously exploit your inherent kindness without facing proper accountability for their destructive actions. Blindly sacrificing yourself to cover up the malicious crimes committed by others never brings genuine peace, instead creating fresh opportunities for even more ruthless betrayals against you. Sharing biological bloodline connections does not automatically guarantee true familial love, meaning you must sometimes ruthlessly amputate highly toxic relationships to fiercely protect your own indispensable self-worth. Always remember that true justice rarely arrives naturally on its own, so you must courageously stand up to claim it using undeniable facts, alongside unshakable inner strength. We sincerely thank our dedicated viewers for patiently listening to this dramatic story until the very final second. Our entire team truly appreciates your highly valuable time spent accompanying us throughout this intense journey. How would you personally handle the cowardly father if placed directly into this exact painful situation? Please drop a detailed comment sharing your honest thoughts below, while remembering to smash that subscribe button.